Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned and noted in the May 6th meeting, the Human Rights Commission's been active within the community. Many human rights educational events and interchanges have occurred. What the good news is the commission itself is full. All 11 seats are engaged with 11 volunteers that are very active, and we do appreciate having that many, with several applying now for the 2014 seats, so we're happy to hear that. They are led by Ken Fonts. He has humbly accepted the chair for this year again, and I would like to introduce him now to go over and present the commission report on the activities.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Madam Mayor, City Council members, first of all, I wanted to apologize publicly for my mistake at the last council meeting. I wrote down on my calendar today, not the last meeting, and so I had no idea I was supposed to be here until a week after the council meeting, which didn't help us, so I wanted to apologize for that. So I was going to quickly go through some of the things that we've been working on and then that we've accomplished over this last roughly year, and then some of the things that we're still working on or planning for this upcoming year as we go through. So to start off with, we supported and participated in the Martin Luther King Human Rights Breakfast, supporting the Latah Human Rights Commission. As usual, that's a regular occurrence here. And so this year's was a really good turnout. Just a few. These are the award winners for the art and essay contests here that were part of it. And then our speaker that they brought in. And so every year we contribute financially with volunteer help, things of this nature, to the Latah Human Rights Commission. And we team up on quite a few events with them as part of all that. Whoops, that's not supposed to be in there. I don't know what that one was. Another thing that we've been working on is the creation of the Northwest Coalition for Human Rights. The Moscow Human Rights Commission has been extremely active in that, and I've reported on this before, so this is just mainly an update, but this is a coalition of human rights groups of 5 counties in Idaho and 2 counties in Washington, and the idea behind it is for communication efforts mainly, so that each group knows what all the others are doing, what issues are in their area, so that if there is help needed, support, also that we can work possibly together, teamwork on various activities. This then spreads out the burden of various things if more people are participating. And so right now we have, I believe it is 30 individuals that belong to it and 18 groups right now, including the Moscow Police Department and the Pullman Police Department are both members of the coalition. And so we are in the process right now of meeting, and June 1st is our next meeting of the interim steering committee, where we will set up the formal structure of the coalition, the groups that will serve on the executive committee, the voting system of how either individuals or groups are elected to that. And so that's our next stage. We do have a newsletter that goes out quarterly, sometimes sooner than that if there are big events going on, and quite a bit of coordination that's happening as a result of that. And so we're very happy that the Moscow Human Rights Commission has been a leader in getting that going. Another thing that we did, kind of a 2-part thing. The first is last fall we partnered with the Latah Human Rights Task Force to bring the Bully movie here to the Kenworthy, showing the movie and discussion. And then that launched an effort into the Moscow schools dealing with bullying. And so the next thing we did in January was we had a social justice forum dealing with bullying, where we allowed the Moscow School District, all of the schools, to present what their policies were on bullying, what their prevention programs were, these types of things. And so that was well attended and very successful. And we're happy to say that before this event, the Moscow School District's policies and programs on bullying were not easy to find. If a parent wanted to find it, it was next to impossible. They had to spend hours looking for it on the websites and trying to track it down in manuals. And as a result of this, the Musco School District has now posted all of this information on their webpage so that parents can easily look up what their policy, each school's policies on bullying are, what programs they have, all of that. We also sent a letter to the Musco School District as a follow-up for information, because now that we've got their policies and programs, what we wanted from them is statistics. How many cases of bullying do they have? How successful are these programs? How are their teachers trained in these programs to deal with this situation? That type of information. And so we're waiting for them to compile that for us, and so we should have that soon as part of all of that. We do know that there has been quite a few parents that have come to us with reports of bullying in the schools, and so we're trying to coordinate with the Musco School District to work a little more to solve this problem as part of it. And then the school district has been very cooperative with us, and I'm really sorry to see Dale retire because he's been very helpful with us working on all of this sort of thing, and now we have to train a new superintendent, so and get him or her on board. I'm not sure if they've announced that yet. I haven't heard. Did they announce it? Yeah. So hopefully we'll continue this collaboration. We held the Musco Community, that's the old one. Boy, I'm behind here. We held the Musco Community Walk. Again, it was quite successful. Here is the children's choir from Musco Charter School and
Russell. I see Russell on there.
Russell, well, both.
Russell, sure.
Musco Charter School and Russell contributed. And so there were a couple kids on the end from Musco Charter School. The rest were Russell. And so they did the children's choir at the square for us. We had a good turnout. The weather was nice, but extremely windy. People waiting and watching the activities. We then had a member of the African Student Association perform an African dance for us before we started walking. Then we headed to the park as usual, and so we're coming into the park and see Mayor Cheney and President Nellis coming in. And actually, we had President Nellis and the soon-to-be interim president, Burnett, both walking with us that day so that we could do the transition, and then just more coming into the park. Our local marimba group played as usual to fire up the crowd. And then enjoying a lunch that this year was catered by the Musco Food Co-op. And we had around 300 individuals that participated, which is roughly what we always have, is right around 300, maybe a little bit more if the weather is really good. But this year it was at least, it wasn't hailing or snowing on us, which we've had that before. So that was pretty good. Before I get to this, another thing that we did that all of you are aware of course, is the Musco Human Rights Commission, and it's starting over, is worked on the anti-discrimination ordinance quite a bit with Randy and other personnel on the city and Gary, and so that took up quite a bit of our time working on that one, and so you're very aware of that one. Other things that we're planning here this year is the award for the Shake Community Unity Award again, so we will be preparing for that in the fall and starting to work on sending out the call for nominations for this year's award recipient. And another thing that we're working on is we're working with the Latah Human Rights Task Force again for Human Rights Day at the Market, and so we're becoming more involved in that, and so we're co-sponsoring it with them, and this year's theme is going to be on women's issues and women's equity, and so we're going to be delving into that. And as part of that, for Inclusive Communities Week, which is always right about the time of the Human Rights Day at the Market, we will be doing an educational forum on these issues, women's equity, and we'll be partnering, hopefully it looks like, with the Women's Center on campus, maybe a few other groups as well, to put together an educational forum, and we'll see what other events come up out of that. So that one's, we're working on that. We are also planning for the fall some other educational forums. We're working on one that's a general one on what are human rights. We felt a general educational forum on what are human rights and why they're important and significant would be helpful for the community, just to go over a lot of these issues and let people express their opinions on this. So we're putting that one together for the fall. And we're also working, and this is just in its tentative stages yet, but we've talked to a few people on campus, but with the event recently of the University of Idaho student who died outside of town because he got lost and died of exposure, we're working with them to possibly put together a university town more. We're not really sure what we're calling it, but the university has what's called the Green Dot program, where they watch out for each other kind of idea, and we're hoping to link up with the university and do something along that line educationally to make people aware of this, that you pay attention to what's going on, you report things, you help each other out a little bit more kind of concept. And so we're hoping to elaborate on that and flesh that out a lot more by the end of the year as part of that. I think that's pretty much it for this year in a nutshell. I'll keep it quick.
Wonderful send-off for the Gazenfars, too.
Yes,
that was
thank
terrific.
you for two, actually, because we had a nice event at the 1912 Center to honor Ghazi and Rakshana Gazenfar, and then we had a bench dedication at East City Park, and the money for the bench was donated by community members. Mainly, Tom Henson and Tom Trail put up the majority of the money and then rounded up the rest of the money from other donators. And so that was very, very nice, because the Gazenfars have been active here quite a bit. Ghazi, who everybody knows, was one of the founding members of the Human Rights Commission. The community walk was his idea, all of this. And so they're moving to Atlanta to be with family, and so we gave them a nice send-off. And we brought Ghazi to tears twice, so at both events. So that was, I think, a job well done on that point. So.
Ken, thank you and your colleagues on the Human Rights Commission for all the terrific work you do. It's important, and it sets, I think, a really fine example for other communities. It truly does extend beyond our city limits in your efforts. Do you have an approximate date for the Human Rights Day and Inclusive Communities Week?
They're in September,
Okay.
the first part of September, but we haven't. They finalized the date for the Human Rights Day at the market, but I don't remember it now. They just did that. The
Okay.
educational forum, we haven't set a date yet, but it's the first week of September is
Okay.
the plan, because by then most people are back, the students are back, everything's busy, and so we get a better response then because
Keep
we
us-
have more people here.
Okay, keep us
So-
posted on that. And then the other thing, let's you and I talk a little bit, that Green Dot, Got Your Back, outreach, the Town Gown Connections. I've been working with Dean of Students Bruce Pittman and,
Yeah, Bruce
and
is very
President Nellis,
interested in it,
and now Interim President Don Burnett on those very issues that you're talking about. So we have a little momentum there, and I would love to coordinate our efforts if we can do that.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
and
Thank
we'll
you.
talk about that. And we're very happy that we now have 11 members, so
Mm-hmm.
we can get everything done without people getting burned out here now. We got a lot of people to work with, so that's good. We're happy about
And
that.
a waiting list, that's amazing.
Yeah, and a waiting list, which I don't think we've ever had a waiting list, so that's great.
Did Rula make a donation to keep her dancing picture off of that slide up there?
Yeah, well, I have a dancing picture of Rula dancing
yes, I'm
with
sure.
her, but I have to work with Rula, and so I decided not to put that up there because it goes out on the web and everything else, and I think she would.
She's a dignified college professor.
Yeah,
Good
she would.
life.
She would
Okay.
get a little upset at me
Yeah.
if I put that up there. I think so.
Council members, questions for our Human Rights Commission representative?
Thank you. It's an honor to be the liaison and work with this group. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, appreciate the report. Thank you.
Thank you.